Hello, one and all, and welcome to Absolute Bedlam Podcast. Absolute Bedlam.
Hello and welcome to Absolute Bedlam Podcast. Got a slightly monotone, downbeaten version of Ben today, so apologies in advance. I'll probably pick up some energy when I start speaking to the guest. We've got Mr. Van Man Talks, if that's still his name. Tune in to find out. We've got Mark back on the podcast. Anyway, how have you been? You all right?
Yeah, I've been good, mate. I've been good. I've been living life and enjoying life, enjoying the circle of people around me and family and friends. I haven't been on YouTube for quite a while, as you know, and I'm sure we'll get into, but that's exactly what I've been enjoying, Ben. I've been enjoying life and it's been great.
Cool. So elephant in the room, let's discuss it now. It's been nearly 6 or 7 months since you've uploaded a YouTube video. So what happened? Because I know that you go on these social media blackouts where you put your phone down for like a month and you grow, plants and veg and you've got an allotment and you fully switch off though, which I think a lot of people nowadays struggle to like fully just put the handbrake on,
Yeah.
A lot of people like turn off certain app notifications. But what made you sort of really just go, I can't do this?
It's a number of different things, but overwhelmingly, the political YouTube space just got too much. And it was just becoming such a negative force in my life. And as you just mentioned, many a times I have just decided just to take a month off, and that's what I'd done. And I think I probably just intended to do that. But this time it was different. I mean, when I started doing YouTube, I come in with the greatest intentions, that it was fun, it was a hobby, I enjoyed it. It was nice hearing people's different ideas and things like that when you're doing a YouTube channel about politics. But over the years, it's just got worse and worse and worse. And the political YouTube space is just a cesspit of just negativity, just contempt, just anyone that thinks differently to you, you just slander and smear. And I had to get out of that space. It was just becoming too much. It was just such a negative force in my life. And when you're doing a political YouTube channel, you're putting out 3-4 videos a week, you're immersed in that world, and just day-to-day politics is just so negative, and you're inserting that into your life every single day. And I kind of had the epiphany. I think I told you this story when we've chatted before, but I went to see a family member of mine, and we vastly disagree on politics. We always have. We're from very, very different sides of the debate. And I went round to see her, and we were having a fantastic chat. We were chatting about holidays, we were chatting about life, we were chatting about everything, and we were getting on great. And then suddenly the topic turned to politics, and it got nasty, as it tends to do. And I've always tried to say to her, look, you need to get out of constantly being absorbed with social media. The algorithm is just feeding you all the Tommy Robinson stuff, all the Nigel Farage stuff, all the anti-immigrant stuff, and that's all you're seeing all day. And I've always tried to sort of give her some advice and say, you've got to take a break. And as I was sort of leaving on my way home, I kind of had a bit of an epiphany where I just thought, well, hang on, I'm falling for exactly the same trap here. People say it's easy to give people advice, but harder to take it for yourself. And I just realized, well, I'm doing exactly the same thing on the other side of the debate. I'm absorbed in politics 24/7. I'm in the comment section. I'm talking to people. I'm arguing to people. I'm making negative videos that are just shouting down the other side of the debate and not actually having conversations. And a mixture of all these different things, but basically it just become a very, very negative force in my life. And I wanted to spend time concentrating, like we started this conversation, on my family, my friends, the people in my life that actually matter and actually affect my life, rather than things that don't. That's a very long answer to a short question.
I think it's all valid though. Like, you say, for example, like you start in the morning, you wake up in the morning, you've got 100% battery, you're fully charged, you're ready to go. Then you've got to go to work, and obviously, depending on whether you like your job or not, that's like 20 to 30% of your battery gone throughout the day. Then you get home, you're on about half charge, and then if your job or your hobby is watching things and absorbing information, and some of the information's negative and some of it's positive and some of it's completely apathy and lack of control, which is something that I've always felt with politics. Of just like, it's no secret that I know Blue Van Man quite well, and sometimes he'll send me a voice note, and it's just him moaning about like politics, and I'm just like, what do you want me to do about it? And I'm not expecting him to come to me with a solution. I'm not expecting that, but sometimes I lose the energy just through osmosis of listening to it, and and I think sometimes that can become like a real, because it feels like you're on this sort of like endless national flight of just fuck, man, like, oh, why do I feel so low energy all the time,
It's a real problem. So many people are just getting absorbed by politics online, on Twitter, on YouTube. Like your friend that you just said, and my family member, are just getting the way the algorithms work. We know how they work, and it's not bringing any positivity to our lives. And the main issue is, I said that I got into doing a YouTube channel about politics with the best intentions to try and speak to different people with different opinions, but the tribalism now is just out of control. I mean, basically it stems from the fact that thankfully there is actually one thing that we all agree with in this country, that the country has been run terribly for the last 40 years. Whether you're on the left or the right, whoever you are, whoever you support, we all actually have that one thing in common, that the country has been run terribly over the last 40 years. The world has changed. 40 years, man. Think about how much the world has changed in 40 years, but we're still using the same style of politics, and the same governments are churning out, whether it's Thatcher, it's Blair, it's Cameron. It's the same shit, and we're all fed up with it. And everyone has just sort of descended to one side of the other. They've gone to the left or they've gone to the right. And they're so vigilantly slinging mud at the other side that they're not actually considering that actually some things that they're saying over here actually make sense, and actually some things they're saying over here make sense as well. But the tribalism, they can't get out of the tribalism. No one will listen to each other anymore, and that's a part of the algorithm as well, which is what is that people are only getting fed the same media. So I mean, one of the problems that I have with my style of politics and with my YouTube videos is I do kind of sit in the middle in a lot of these debates. Like, I would actually class myself as a left-wing conservative, if that makes sense. There's actually, it sounds a bit strange, but there's actually a lot of us out there where economically I'm quite sympathetic to the left-wing argument. When I say that, I talk about proactive policies, like, take example, homelessness. Like, I'm much more in favour of throwing money at the problem and sorting it out to reap the benefits in the future. If you get people off the streets into homes, becoming tax-paying citizens, you reap the money far more, because we spend thousands of pounds on homelessness every single year, whether it's policing, NHS, stuff like that. That's the sort of left-wing politics that I'm sympathetic to. But socially, I'm conservative in a lot of ways. You know, I like hard work. I don't think massive amounts of immigration is necessarily great for a country. You know, benefits, things like that. Benefits, I don't really care about the money that we spend on benefits, but I just think there's a lot of people in this country that do live on benefits that could work and would have a better life for it. I don't care about the money we spend on it. I just don't think it's a great way to live. So socially, I have a lot of I'm considered, you know, conservative on a lot of issues, and of course, because I don't fit fully to the left-wing tribe and I don't fit fully to the right-wing tribe, you just end up getting attacked. And it's,
well, on that then, right? Do you ever get people just calling you a centrist as like an attack?
Yeah, but a centrist nowadays is kind of, it's more or less seen as the governments that we've had for the last 40 years. But they're not really centrist. Like Keir Starmer is supposed to be a centrist, but the country has gone so far right over the last 10 years that he's centre right. There isn't really any centrists left. I mean, a centrist in my eyes is just someone that basically just looks at both sides of the argument and takes bits from the other side, but no one would admit to doing that now. No one. And it's not true, because people think differently about loads of different topics. And I know for a fact that people that are stingently on the left have to end up defending things that maybe they don't agree with, because they don't want to upset the tribe. And the same on the right side of politics. I mean, Farage and Reform is the perfect example of that. Maybe they do agree with a lot of the immigration stuff, but then they end up having to defend his very far right economic policy, which is basically like Liz Truss on steroids. I don't really know. I mean, it's a good question that you asked, Ben. Like, I don't really know what a centrist is anymore. But in my eyes, it's someone that actually looks at both sides of the argument.
Yeah, I think there's, and I really, really don't want to get into this, but there's a argument here for, like, if you don't know what religion you are, you're an agnostic, and you look at everything holistically, and you try to extrapolate certain parts of certain religions and certain values and things. But ultimately, agnostic is I don't really know.
Well, that
so
is
it's kind of like that, but
that is perfect.
version.
That is perfect that you've just said that about religion, because that does sum it up perfectly. Both sides of these tribalistic debates are like religion, and they have to defend their religion vigilantly, even though there's stuff they don't agree with. If you're a Catholic and someone brings up all the anti-gay stuff, and really, it's okay to be gay, but you have to defend it. And this is what happens with this political tribalism. And I can't stand it. Because that is why I had to get off of YouTube and get out of that world, because it is just mudslinging. You go on any YouTube video, any politics YouTube video, and it's left-wing loser says this, or right-wing fascist says this, and let's just get all the views and the controversy and get everyone riled up, and no one's actually going, well, should we just talk about it? People have different opinions. People in the UK as a whole, if you live in London, you have a very different perspective on life than if you live in Stoke-on-Trent or if you live in Wales. So everyone is experiencing this country very, very differently and comes from very, very different places. It's just a shame, because I haven't lost an interest in politics. I haven't lost an interest in these topics. I care about this country, and it does scare me the way that it's going, and I would like to see so many things change. But we're too busy slinging mud at the other side to realise the answers are there, and there is actually a lot of stuff that we all agree with in this country. But because we're too busy shouting at each other, none of this gets realised, and you can never agree with someone that's on the opposite end of the tribal scale. It's a very frustrating world, and for my own mental health, I guess you could say, I had to get myself away from that and just start concentrating on the people that I care about, my friends, my family, and just try and make my life better, rather than caring about people's opinions that don't really matter.
Do you still watch YouTube, even though you're on hiatus? Do you still consume content?
Yes, I have sort of 3 or 4 different YouTube accounts that I've sort of trained the algorithm for what I want. So if I want politics, I'll go to that channel, but then I'll put on one if I want my sports or my comedy, or so I still watch a lot of YouTube.
Is there any sort of shift since you've stopped making content? Have you suddenly started watching people that might not have watched if you were sort of in work mode or hobby mode?
Well, I mean, not as regards to politics, because I haven't like completely been ignorant to what's been going on in the world. I've been keeping up to date because I still have an interest. But it's the tittle tattle rubbish that I've tried to take away from my life. So no.
Is there like a muscle that like goes off when you watch like a political video now where you're like, oh, I've got to react to this, I've got to, and you're like, actually, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't actually have to come from me.
Well, that's a really good question, because that's exactly what I used to be like. As soon as I heard something that I disagreed with, I'd be like, right,
fired up,
turning the camera on, and I'm going to tell you why you are wrong. And you know what? Maybe I don't have all the facts, and you know, so my perspective on that has changed massively when I see people with different opinions. I'm more inquisitive now. Okay, so what you know, why do you think that way? And you know, one of my biggest issues with political commentators on YouTube is we're all getting our information from people that really don't know. Like me, you know, I can give my opinion, but I am just a guy in a van. And you know, it really did show. I saw recently when I was on YouTube a video from Katie Hopkins, and it was I'm going to give you the real truth on Ukraine, and it was a 5-minute long video. And I'm thinking, okay, so you know, we've got access to online. We've got thousands of experts on these topics, people that have been involved in the war, that have studied it, that have researched it for years and years. And I saw 150,000 people had tuned in to Katie Hopkins to give her opinion on the Ukraine-Russia war in 5 minutes. And that just perfectly sums up my issue with politics on YouTube. There's just far too many people that are just taking their opinions from people that on left and the right that just know F all.
Okay, so as we're on the subject of Katie Hopkins and people that are super controversial, would you do a podcast with Katie Hopkins if she emailed you?
I mean, it's hard to put yourself in that scenario because that would never happen. but in a hypothetical
Katie,
situation,
if you're watching, right?
yeah, sure, I'd love to talk to her. I'd love to talk to anyone. And this is one thing that I have throughout my YouTube journey. I've always tried to speak to people on the other side of the debate, but no one wants to. The only person that would was your friend Angry Bootneck. Now I disagree with him on a lot of things, but we ended up agreeing on a certain amount of things. He was the only person that was willing to talk to me, because what happens is, when money gets involved with YouTube, you know, so many YouTubers on the right of politics that I wanted to talk to were scared of maybe being embarrassed or slipping up, or you know, because they're earning money, and as soon as you start earning money on YouTube, that's when you know, your politics, that's where the tribalism comes, because you don't want to upset people, because they're your customers and you're making money from them.
I think there's also like a part of it that's like, if I'm on a podcast for an hour, the real version of me will come out. Whereas if I just do a 6-minute video talking about something, I can like hype myself up behind the camera, and I can like, I've got a script, I've got notes on my phone, you know, I can just blurt it out, upload it, next day, 200,000 views. Whereas if I've got to go on a podcast, and I think this is one of the reasons why Joe Rogan does 3-hour podcasts, you will see the real person. Ultimately, at some point in that episode, the mask will slip. And, you know, I think Joe, for all of his flaws, he's very good at sort of mentally undressing people and really being like, is that actually true? What you've just said, is that actually something that we can fact check? Because you can't just come on here and just start blurting out random facts that we've got no evidence for. And his pursuit of that sort of true north, I think that's one of the reasons that I tune in quite a lot to listen to him talk.
Yeah, I mean, the short form video that you started with there has its place. If you've got something that you want to say and you want to switch on your camera and say it to your camera, it's got its place. But you're exactly right. The long form interview is so much better. Going back to our friend Katie Hopkins, You know,
Yeah.
she can sit in front of a camera for 5 minutes, blurt out whatever stuff she wants to say about Ukraine, and no one's there to correct her, no one's there to question her. She can just say what she wants in her format and send it out, and 150 people now share that opinion. You know, it still amazes me, the world that we live in, that 150,000 people are getting thinking, right, who should I listen to on the war in Ukraine? Really serious situation.
Everyone that
Let's go to Katie Hopkins in 5-minute video.
Was that a live stream, or was that just a video on her YouTube channel?
I didn't click on it, Ben, surprisingly.
Okay.
I just saw the title and the thumbnail, so I assume it was. I mean, it was a 5-minute long video, so I don't think it was a live stream. It was just a format video.
There's this sort of cynicalness and this morbid curiosity when someone's live, and they're not usually live, even though you might fundamentally disagree with what they're about to say, you do click it. And I think there's a really weird psychological curiosity to that, where, you know, you're watching someone, you're hate watching them, which is a phenomenon
it's
that
definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. I've done that.
It's very strange.
Clicked on lots of videos with people that I know I'm just going to disagree with to try and find out what they, because I'm interested as well, though. Like, I am okay. What is Katie Hopkins' 5-minute summary of? But I was in my zone of shutting out politics from my life at that point, so I didn't end up clicking on it.
So as you're sort of watching politics and absorbing information and taking a bit of a step back, are you now listening to a lot more music? Are you still listening to lots of podcasts where there's a potential overflow of data and, you know, you're filling your head up with things? Or are you in escape mode and you're just like listening to metal and just chilling out and driving around? You know?
Probably a mixture of all three. So I sort of listen to one as level field politics podcast a week, the one that I think is probably in the middle as much as possible, for an hour a week, and that's pretty much just to get my news, just so I know what's going on in the world. And then I mix it up. I start listening to comedy podcasts and a lot of music. You know, I'm never going to not love music, but also you hit the nail on the head, just having some peace and quiet. You know, we live in this world now where we're just taking on information so much, and this is the problem that I had while I was doing the channel. I constantly had to keep updated, you know, constantly listening to political podcasts, taking in all this information all the time. But sometimes you just need to pause and just take a breath. Like, I really love running. I know you run as well, you know, about 3 times a week. And I used to listen to music and I used to listen to podcasts, but now I just listen to nothing, because it's nice just to clear your head for a bit and not absorb so much information. We haven't evolved to take on this amount of information. We're still got the brains of cavemen in tribes, you know. We sit around the campfire and tell each other a story, which is great, but we're not absorbing information from around the world on everyone's different opinions, blasted into your head. So sometimes I drive and I just have nothing, and you know, it's nice. It's nice not to constantly absorb information.
I think I'm quite an avid watcher of the Sidemen, and they do a lot of challenge videos, and they always split up into 3 groups of 2, and they get guests, and they are beyond rich, and it's not a secret that they're very, very wealthy individuals considering their age. But one of the best videos I've watched recently was 3 of them went to like weird Airbnbs, and one of them went camping, one of them stayed in a castle, and one of them stayed on like this weird little island. And the one where they went camping just really dropped everything down to its absolute basic components, and they ended up just getting push bikes, going to pubs, getting pissed up, and like going to another pub on a push bike. And then they came back to their campsite and they just put a fire on. And I thought to myself, this is like actual wholesome content. Like, everything in its absolute can just be boiled down to just chilling out with your mates and just talking.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need this overstimulation of like, oh, I must go to Dubai and I must make 6 figures, and it's just all bollocks.
I
It
couldn't
really
agree
is
more,
just
mate.
all bullshit. And human connection is at an absolute premium these days, and we seem to just not really realize that. And I'm not trying to like virtue signal or anything, but it's interesting when you sort of really think about, you know, the human experience and the human condition, and it's just, let's all just get pissed in a field and have a fun time. And
Mate, I
you know,
couldn't agree with you more. I could not agree with you more. We need to bring things back to basics a bit more. We just live in a world that's just overstimulated all the time, you know, and so many people take on so much stimulants in a day. Even if you're like, if you're a vapor and you're
yeah,
vaping and you're watching Netflix, and even that's not enough. You've got your phone out at the same time and you're scrolling through
yeah,
this, and you're just constantly, you're basically seeking that high permanently that you're not
yeah,
ever actually going to reach. You need to bring things down to basics. I mean, I'm not. I think you joked previously before about, was it your neighbor that's a Buddhist or something? But
yeah, yeah,
honestly, Buddhism, you know, this is
yeah,
all the stuff that comes from Buddhism, and they, you know, I'm not going to be spending hours bloody praying in a monastery or anything, but you can
yeah,
take some really, really good ideas from Buddhism of just basically living a basic life and and being happy with being in control of what you can control and not worrying about the greater world events that you can't affect at all. Just concentrate on
yeah,
yourself and your soul, and bringing things back to basic. Right? There's honestly, you can have all those stimulants you like. You're vaping, your Netflix, you're scrolling, but what's better, that or sitting around a campfire with your mates and chatting shit?
yeah,
I know what I'd much rather do.
yeah,
And you know, so much of our
yeah,
world now is spent communicating online. Um,
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you a story actually, because
yeah, man.
I know you'll be interested in this because you brought up something very similar recently about outrage online. So I spoke to you about the sauna that I go to in Brighton. It's a really amazing little company. They have these little beach box saunas on the seafront. Amazing business. The people there are so friendly, and it's just one of those amazing ways to just get people together and talk, because you're in a hut with a bunch of strangers and you just talk. People from all different walks of life, you talk. And recently they got a bit of bother online because they have lots of different events. They have under 25s events. They even have like an LGBT event and stuff like that. And they had a women's event. And someone on their post to put in the comments, does this include trans women? And I
Yeah,
don't know who replied to the comment, whether it was the manager or whether it was just a member of staff. But they said, no, unfortunately for this event, we're keeping it to biological women. Now, it depends what your opinion is on that, but then suddenly they just got trashed left, right, and centre. The comment section got flooded.
mhm,
Transphobes, transphobes, transphobes. They got attacked from every single angle. And it was just interesting to me. Like, it doesn't matter what your opinion is on that topic.
yeah,
But what I found was interesting is that this whole business is about getting people together from all walks of life and actually talking in person at a sauna with people that you don't know, getting together and talking online. And it was like it had the polar opposite, where online, which is where the majority of people are having their discussions now, is bitter and vindictive and snipey and just tribalist. And the
yeah,
contrast between the two was just shocking to me. It really, really was. And
yeah,
it's, you know, this is what we need to do more of. You say about bringing it simple.
mhm,
All, most of our dialogue now seems to be online and through a screen, and it's not healthy. That's why so many people have social anxieties now, because they're not actually experiencing talking to people
yeah.
in real life, which is something that we're really missing.
This is a bit of a segue, but we will eventually talk about download in a minute, because they're in a little bit of hot water at the moment with that whole thing that
Yeah,
you just
that's
described.
yeah.
But before that, I just want to ask: have you watched any content on YouTube from a guy called Joe Weller?
Joe Well, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So he's a friend of the Sidemen. He's done a lot by himself, to be fair, but he's recently been on quite a lot of a lot of people listen to what he has to say, and he's a very humble, genuinely calm, level-headed individual from what I can see. He does a podcast called Waffling, and going back to the whole like the mask will slip if you're doing a weekly podcast that's over like an hour and a half long, that people will figure out that you are a dickhead if you are actually a dickhead, you know. But he recently did a YouTube video that I've just watched before actually joining this call called I did Mudmania in Uganda, and he basically joined like the World Wrestling Federation for Uganda, and it's called Mudmania, which is obviously a a nod to WrestleMania. And one of the things that I love about Joe Weller specifically, and I'm sure that if you watch some of his videos, Mark, then you can probably relate to this, is this absolute necessity to communicate with people and to connect with people in the physical world rather than just digitally. And he seems to like go on these big like hiatuses, and like he puts his phone down for like 5 months, and unless he absolutely has to like go on his phone, he has to like answer a phone call or something, then he'll just completely he'll what's it called, like he'll just unplug himself from the matrix, basically.
Yeah,
He'll just
pure
completely detox
detox.
from it. And I think he's a really good example of someone that's slightly younger than me, that can just kind of go with the flow, and just he allows things to happen. But also when he gets a YouTube video idea in his head, he gets really, really obsessed with it, and he won't stop until the video is as good as it can possibly be. But yeah, I just think that he's a really good sort of role model, and I don't think he ever intended to be. But I just wanted to know what your sort of thoughts were on that, because
Well,
I think
it
there's
sounds like
definitely value.
he's got best of both worlds. Then, if he's still managing to actually do a YouTube career and enjoy it,
Yeah,
because he's obviously got that passion for it, but then he's able to unplug from it for a long period of time. I mean, that
yeah,
is fantastic for me. I honestly don't know how, your massive big YouTubers, or
yeah,
your Sidemen and stuff that are just constantly working. I mean, that, maybe that's what they thrive on, and I
yeah,
guess they're not in a particularly negative world. This is the difference between online politics and what those guys do. It's not
yeah, yeah,
entrenchedly negative all the time. But I couldn't advocate enough for it. I've done it several times before, just unplugging, even if it's just a month, just getting rid of all the social media apps,
yeah,
YouTube, everything, and just completely unplugging for a month. And there's so many benefits, but one of the main ones that I didn't even think about at the time is just your productivity.
yeah.
When you're not constantly reaching for your phone, when you're not putting on
Distractions.
YouTube, you're thinking, oh, do you know what? The bathroom's really annoying me, that cupboard. That door has been falling off on the side for ages. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get that sorted.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
annoying me around the house? All right, I need to go into the
yeah,
garden and sort this out. And you start actually doing things, and also going out and seeing more people as well. When you're not spending your time flicking through your phone, watching Netflix of an evening, I'm grabbing friends. I'm like, do you want to go do this? Do you want to, since I gave up doing YouTube, I've started playing pool regularly with a friend. I've, started doing sauna and, doing
yeah,
all these different things because,
yeah,
in the 90s and the noughties or whatever, this is what we'd done. If we just sat at home with the 4 channels that we had on TV, we go stir
yeah,
crazy. But because we got all these other distractions,
yeah,
and that comes back round to what you were initially saying, why so much of our conversing now is online, for those
yeah,
reasons.
yeah, completely. I think there's a real value to the human connection. There was a couple of instances last year in 2024 where I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a job, and I've decided now, and everything's fine. But I actually did a 3-week course in London, in a really, really bleak part of London called Brimsdown, which just sounds shit. And it was to be a network engineer for OpenReach.
Yeah.
And I don't mind mentioning OpenReach because it's quite a vague, monolithic company.
Mm.
But it was to climb telegraph poles, and it was to sort those green boxes out that
I
we all
remember
see
you
on the
telling
side
me
of the
about
road
this.
and
Yeah.
ignore. And I absolutely loved the classroom element of that, because you are properly fish out of water. No one knows who you are. And sometimes people don't really give a fuck who you are, because they're there to get qualified and they're there to earn money, you know.
Sure.
But I've definitely considered myself someone that thrives in that environment where you're all learning together, you're able to put your hand up and ask questions, you're not just watching like a YouTube video where you're being talked at. And I think that was something that was like really genuinely valuable. But I got to week 3 and realized that I cannot climb an 11-meter telegraph pole without
I don't blame you, mate.
constantly thinking I'm going to die.
I don't blame you.
So yeah,
But
it was
it's
worth a
interesting
shot.
what you say. I don't, you know, I agree that environment. You know, sometimes that can be scary for people. Lots of strangers all getting together, but we don't do that enough. I've had another family member recently that retired and has kind of come a bit of a recluse because they've got very, very used to their own comfort. And you know, while they were working, they were quite happy to be in environments like you were just talking about with strangers because they had the confidence to do that. But it's a slippery slope where so many people just enjoy the comfort of their sofa, enjoy the comfort of their home, and start getting socially anxious. You know, no one really talked about this years ago.
No.
I never heard those terms: socially awkward, social anxiety. You know, I've heard of anxiety, but I mean, it is down to the fact that we're just so people are just getting so comfortable at home now. But I do have a positive outlook for the future. A lot of people have a negative outlook, but I think more and more people are realizing this, and they're realizing the benefits of putting yourself out there. Like this, you know, just this example of this small business that we have in Brighton, this sauna community that it's a safe place. People can go and they enjoy chatting to people and meeting new people. I think people are realizing the benefits of meeting people and seeing people in the real world.
Yeah, and also like it subconsciously drops your ego because no one knows who you are, so you don't really have anything to, you know, you could try and impress them and say, oh, I used to work for Microsoft, look at me, blah blah blah, you know. But unless that's true, then it's just a bit like we all tend to sort of peacock in front of people, don't we, to try and impress them. But
well, especially in the sauna environment, because we're all sitting there semi-naked, just sitting there with all to bear. We're all just human beings. We're all just different human beings.
Yeah, you start off on the back foot, so to speak, because you're in a completely natural sort of, you're basically half naked. So yeah, there's no ego to be had, I suppose. But yeah, I got another question for you, then we're going to speak about download quickly. But I'm aware that we've spoken about YouTube at length at this point, but why don't you just change the content that you make? Because you've got 20,000 subscribers, and I know sometimes that doesn't sound like a lot to people, but your channel's been very slow burn, in my opinion. I don't think you've had like one video that's had like 4 million views and then you got a ton of subscribers overnight and then you were like, fuck, I need to keep doing this. Like this needs to stay in its lane, sort of thing. So why don't you just like video something else? Do you think that you'll get like this mass exodus of people leaving because you've retained the same subs even after not uploading for 6 months? So why don't you just do something that's a bit more you?
It's a good question and something that I've been nulling in my head because I mean, me and you both, we do this because we're creative people. So, you know, when I did give up doing the videos, I gave up that creative output that I used to enjoy. And, you know, I built this up over 3-4 years. It's hard to let go. And also, you know, there's so many nice people that are subscribed to my channel that I used to talk to regularly, and so many. And yeah, it's hard, but I just had to weigh up the fact that this was just an overwhelming negative in my life. You know, it's easy, especially as we talked earlier, when money starts getting involved. I mean, I wasn't getting much money from YouTube at all, really. But it's still a little incentive. It's like, oh, could I earn a little bit more? But I haven't thrown out the idea of making more content. I think I probably will. But I think it has to be on a fresh channel. I think I can't. thing is, if you start doing something different, the 20,000 subscribers that you've got are like, oh, okay, why are you doing videos on something completely different now? The algorithm is set up to push your videos to that audience that wants political videos. So I'm not ruling out doing anything more. I probably will, but it will be on a separate channel, and it is hard to give that up. You know, I've worked very, very hard on that for a long period of time.
Did you say that it could like actively hurt your channel if you suddenly change the theme of it? So if I stopped doing podcasts and I just did, I don't know, food reviews, for example. Like, does that like really
you're much
discourage?
better off doing a completely different channel, because your channel is completely geared up to the audience that watches what you do. You know, example with if I start doing fishing videos, the algorithm's going to be like, okay, what the hell's going on? We're showing your videos to the people that normally watch your videos, but for some reason they're not watching it, and it just says, oh, okay, well, you're no good anymore. You're not making good content. You need a fresh channel. And if I do something else, which I probably will, I mean, I'll go back to what I originally done. I mean, this is the way that YouTube works, and especially with small creators. When I first started making videos, I was talking all topics in my van. I was talking about what it's like to bring up a teenager in 2020, and you know, all sorts of different topics. What it's like to just be a 40-year-old guy and talk about loads of different things. But the algorithm picked up on a video that I'd done about Brexit. I was like, okay, people are interested in this. I'm interested in politics a little bit, so I followed that strain, and then more and more people were watching the videos, and it just turned into a political channel. This is generally what happens. YouTube need those small YouTube channels. You think, you know, they make the majority of their revenue from the big Sidemen channels that bring in millions and millions of views, but all those small channels that have 2,000 subscribers, 20,000 subscribers, all across the world, bring in a massive revenue for YouTube. So they need those. They really need those. And that's how it works. They throw you a bone now and again. They throw you a bone. They throw out your video that gets a lot of views, that makes you want to keep making content. And it's another side of the world, that of the YouTube world. You know, social media is a drug. We know it's a drug, but it's a drug for content creators as well. You know, when you put that video up, it's like a fruit machine. Every time, you don't know, is it going to do well? You pull the cord and it's like, oh, it's doing well. There's lots of views. There's lots of likes. There's lots of comments. And, you know, it gets you excited. And you're like, oh, you're like chasing that dragon like a bloody drug addict. You know, you're trying to get that hit that you got when you got that video that got 100,000 views. You keep trying to, and that's how YouTube are so clever to keep you making videos. And it kind of lost, for me, the original reason why I started making videos, which was I wanted a creative output, and I wanted to hear from people and hear different views and have a community and talk about different issues in a nice way. But it just turned into this nasty, negative, vindictive like and view search thing, which is just not what I signed on for, really.
Did you ever have anyone do a critique video on one of your videos?
Oh god, yeah. I mean, I've had loads. I mean, this is the world that I was in when I was getting in these spats with different political YouTubers. You know, right wing YouTuber versus left wing. All this absolute rubbish. The stuff that I look back on in shame now. I'd critique their videos, and I'd get a bashing from them, and they were getting views, and I was getting views, and this is the world that I hate now. But I look back at it and I think this is just. It's just so negative for the viewers that are watching. I'm becoming everything that I hate, because I'm slinging mud at the other side, not listening to anything, just for the search for views and likes. And it's just not a nice place to be. But yeah, plenty of critiques of my videos. And from commenters and viewers as well, of course.
Yeah. I think one of like the best examples of a hypocrite, if like my son was to ask me what a hypocrite means, is like a political commentator on YouTube that's also a Buddhist. Like, that must be such a crazy life. Like, could you imagine?
I mean, they're not a true Buddhist. It's impossible. It's impossible. So yeah, you're absolutely spot on. One of them is sacrificing. You're either a political commentator or a Buddhist. You can't be both, because that goes completely against Buddhism.
Yeah. Awesome. Right, well, we're going to go to a pretend break quickly, and then we're going to get onto music. Right, so music. This is a bit of a loaded question, and I don't expect you to necessarily give me a one answer to this, but what currently, in June 2025, what would you say so far has been your favorite album to listen to?
Well, I tell you what, I'm enjoying a hell of a lot of new British punk bands at the moment. This seems to be my thing. I go through different stages of enjoying different music, and at the moment, there's some really, really good small British punk bands.
Okay.
The Meths are playing at Download. I'm going to be watching them. There's a band called Lambrini Girls. I don't know whether you've ever heard of them. That have got some
Oh, yeah,
fantastic stuff. Bad Nerves is my biggest one. I absolutely love
heard of
that
them.
band. They're
Yeah.
very Ramonesy, but because they're British, they've got a sort of lot of almost Britpop in there. But the drummer is a lot like the Block Party drummer that I really, really like. He
Oh,
does
yeah.
these very compact, fast drumming beats that are really, really cool. But I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of anger in this country at the moment, and that always breeds good punk bands. You know, the late
Yeah.
70s, people were pissed off with the way the country was, and it produced a lot of good punk bands. But as for if I was going to pick one album for this year, it would probably be Employed to Serve's album. I can't remember the bloody name of it now, but that dropped a couple of months ago. I really, really like them. I like them a
Uh,
lot. Um,
I need to check them out because they've always been on my radar, but I've never actually
Oh, they're
properly gone through
fantastic. I found out about them by accident. They were playing in Brighton, but I was actually going for the support band, which was Pupil Slicer. Great name,
it.
fantastic name. But I saw them at Download that year, and I went. They were supporting, and then I sort of listened to a few tracks, as you do, of the other bands that are there, and I ended up liking Employed to Serve far more. They're a hard band to describe, but did you ever get into Code Orange?
Um, I get confused between them and Car Bomb because I think
Code
I've
Orange,
seen.
they're quite close to
Yeah,
Slipknot, and that Corey Taylor was on one of their tracks. But they've got like a female
yeah.
guitar player that chips in with vocals quite a bit.
I think
But
I've seen
they're a little bit
support.
industrial. They
Yeah.
put a lot of electronics in, but then they've got these just thunderous breakdown riffs. And they kind of Employed to Serve remind me of a British version
All
of
right.
Code Orange. Um,
I think I have seen them. It's either Code Orange or Orange Goblin. One of them supported Gojira a couple of years back.
yeah.
They're fantastic.
I can't remember which one, but definitely. I mean, it depends whether it's your thing. I mean, I'm just a sucker for heavy breakdown riffs. Absolutely sludgy. Oh, I just love them. Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. The guitar player is an absolute riff machine, and I'm really into them at the moment. That would be my album of the year so far, definitely.
So is it Fallen Star?
Yes, Fallen Star. Yeah.
Okay, I'll
They've
check
got
that
a
out.
track, not particularly a band I like, but they've got
Yeah,
the singer from Lorna Shore on
I
one of the
can't
tracks.
stand them. I physically reject their existence. Yeah,
I checked them out
they
at Download.
they do well though, man. They do well.
Yeah, they had a big audience, but I checked them out for about 5 minutes, and my group of friends all sort of had the same reaction. We were there, we're like, yeah, that's enough of that. It's
I
just
might
not my
have
sort
to
of thing, but lots of people dig it.
I might have to reach out to People Slicer because I know their session guitarist, Ollie, who's in
Hmm,
a band called Perpetual Paradox, which I had on recently. But yeah, I'm not sure if he's sort of credited in the albums and on the Spotify bit at the
yeah.
bottom if he's actually like a member of the band or if he's just like a silent partner. But yeah, have you managed to check out Even in Arcadia by Sleep Token yet?
Well, I was about to, before you said that, I was about to say I assume that your album of the year is the new Sleep Token one. So you can, I'll answer your
Um,
question with a question.
this year's been a bit manic music wise for me. I do like the album, but I think it's quite a grower. I still prefer Sundowning and Take Me Back to Eden
Yeah.
and even This Place Will Become Your Tomb. Um, yeah, I don't know. I find myself just listening there's a band that I think they're actually from Brighton, but they sort of disbanded in 2014, called Tall Ships,
Not familiar.
and I've just been listening to that album constantly, and it's like really, it kind of sounds a bit gospely,
Mm,
and I just find that it's really cool to like listen to whilst you're driving
mm.
because it sounds big. It sounds like it was recorded in like a chapel somewhere, you know?
It's also hard if you've got something that you're really enjoying to then get the enthusiasm to keep listening to the new Sleep Token
Yeah,
album to give it a bit more of every go.
yeah.
But to answer your question,
There's
I'm very much looking forward to seeing them at Download.
yeah,
You know my feelings on Sleep Token. They're
do.
the most infuriating band in the world for me because I absolutely adore about 20% of everything they've ever done. And when I say adore, like some of the best metal music that we've heard in the last 20 years, I absolutely love it. But the other 80% I actively despise.
Yeah,
So it'll be a strange experience watching them live. I'll have a few moments where I think, I'll just nip off to have a beer and come back, and then
yeah,
I'll absolutely be loving the tracks that I love,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then I'll have a few boring ones. But yeah, it's strange. I've never encountered a band like this before. I've had plenty of bands where I like a lot of their stuff, and the rest of it is just no, it's okay. But I've never had a band where I just actively despise
yeah,
the other stuff. I can't stand it. I just find it insanely boring. But the tracks I like, oh man, they're good. They are so good.
yeah. Are you a fan of Catatonia at all?
Yeah, we've talked about this before, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
was absolutely obsessed with that album in the early 2000s, Viva Emptiness, and then you really like the album that they released afterwards that I haven't really given a proper go. Um, the album before I've got a lot of nostalgia for just because that's what happens, isn't it? I mean, that album came out in my early 20s. I've got a lot of nostalgia for that period. It's what happens with albums, so I've got a lot of fondness for that. But I haven't dived in too much to their other stuff. I
yeah,
mean, they must have a good 10, 11 albums since that one now.
yeah. I'm just, yeah, the one that you're referring to for me is The Great Cold Distance, but it looks like the last time they actually dropped an album was like, well, I suppose they did drop one in January 2023, but they're literally just about to drop a new one like this
Okay.
week.
Well, they're touring, aren't
Uh,
they?
yeah, they seem to do very well,
Mm.
but
I mean, they're a band that
uh,
I should
yeah,
really be into because they're from that world that I absolutely love, the world of In Flames, Opeth. They're Swedish, right? And then they've come
yeah,
from that Gothenburg scene that I was
they've got,
fully invested in
yeah,
the early 2000s. I mean, absolutely, Opeth, right? He's got the flag behind me.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I'm not a massive fan of their newer stuff, but their early stuff, it's my favorite band,
yeah,
probably. If I just took their early stuff. And strangely, even though they're one of my favourite bands, I probably won't be seeing them at Download because they're clashing with another band. And I know that they're going to play a lot of their new stuff, Opeth. So I'm not, I've seen them in their prime. This is one of the
yeah,
things that I keep having with bands. Even though Opeth are one of my favourite bands, I haven't got the urge to go and see them again. One, because they're playing a lot of
yeah,
their new stuff, but also I saw them when they were in their prime, and it's kind of like going back to chasing that drug thing, isn't it? You're never really
yeah,
going to get the high of the
yeah.
best
You've
times that
seen,
you've seen them. That's why I'm
yeah,
more interested in newer bands now. I get much more excited for bands that I've never seen before, new bands that I can experience rather than the old ones. Last time at Download, seeing Metallica are one of my favourite bands, but I mean, they were all right, but I've seen them so many times before where they've been amazing, and they're getting a bit too old now, man.
yeah,
Lars is making so many mistakes. They're slowing down the songs so much because I mean, Jesus Christ, the early 60s Metallica must be, right?
yeah. I'd say
Um,
them and Iron Maiden are within the
yeah,
same sort
they
of
can't do
remit
it.
of
They're a
like,
thrash
yeah,
metal band. They can't play that fast anymore. They
yeah,
have to slow down the songs so much, and I'd rather just remember the good times that I saw them when they
yeah,
were in their
rather than
prime.
watching them fade out, sort of thing.
Mm.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Have you checked out Black Gold at all? Because they're another band that are on my radar, and I just haven't actually like jumped in. But I think
No.
they're also an anonymous band. I think they recently supported Limp Bizkit on a couple of shows, which is
Oh, really?
pretty mental. Yeah,
No, I haven't.
I'm gonna
I do
check
like.
them
I
out.
don't want it to be overdone, but I do like the anonymous. I think there hasn't really been a big one since Slipknot done it bloody 25 years ago. Since Sleep Token, I do like the anonymous bands and the mask type thing. It's cool. It is cool.
It must be quite an experience to play to like a sold out download, for example, or 2000 trees, or just to play a festival where everyone's just at your absolute like whim. If you say jump, they go how high, sort of
Mm,
thing. It must be quite cool. But to then get off stage and like become part of the crowd, that
yeah.
must be quite a strange experience. I'd actually quite like to speak to someone about something like that, because there's this sense
I
of
think
like I
you
can now
just
go
need to
to Tesco.
speak to the majority of bass players in bands because no one really
Yeah,
knows the bass player. They can quite freely go around a festival
yeah, yeah,
without being known.
yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah, because I think we're now approaching this critical mass with influencers where, like you said earlier, like one of your friends or one of your family members is becoming a recluse. And I think that's ultimately where this is going to go. If people literally can't leave their house and go to Aldi without being asked for photos 67 times, people just don't want that, man. Like they just don't want it.
Yeah.
But it's also like, oh, without us as fans, you would be nothing without. It's just a really weird sort of the snake eats its own tail kind of
Mm.
mentality, and it's can't be good for you.
I've never understood it on the other side. I've never really had a burning desire to have a photo with bands and stuff. Like I do see there's one venue in Brighton called Chalk where there's a pub
Mm.
literally at the fire exit, and any band that's playing, if they're smoking, they're coming out that fire exit. So all
Yeah,
the time you're in that pub, and the band that's
yeah,
playing is coming out. It pretty much every single time I go to a gig there, the band comes out. And I never really have that. I mean, it's just me, I guess, but I never have that burning desire to approach. I never really know what to say. I definitely wouldn't want to go for a photo. Um, it's weird. I've never really got that. The only time I did recently, I think that I mentioned this to you when I went to see While She Sleeps in London, and Matt, the guitar player, was in the pub around the corner when we went for a beer,
yeah,
and that band, I didn't want to go up and ask for a photo or anything like that. I just wanted to have an interaction with the guy, and I just wanted to tell him that he was responsible for one of my favorite gigs of all time, the first gig that I went to after COVID, when
yeah,
you know how much live music means to me. It's a religious experience for me. It's like therapy. I just get in a room with like-minded people that love this band and love this music, and we all get together and enjoy this moment together. And we've been starved of that for so long, for like 2 years over COVID. And the first band that I saw was While She Sleeps. And yeah, I saw Matt, the guitar player, in the pub afterwards, and that was kind of the first time I've ever approached someone. And
yeah,
I just said, Matt, I just wanted to tell you, mate, I hope I'm not interrupted. He was with a few friends talking. I was like, came up all nervous. I was like, I'm sorry, I really don't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to say to you, mate, that gig that you done in Brighton just after COVID was just absolutely phenomenal. And it meant so much to me after COVID. And he was
yeah,
a really nice guy. But that
yeah,
is so different to what we see now, where I can't stand it when you see people chasing celebrities down the street with
yeah,
their phone like this, like just getting next to them, just like snap.
yeah,
So I hate it.
yeah. It's disgusting.
I
I
don't know
really
what you're
do think
getting
it's
from it
like,
though. I don't know what you're getting
well,
from
yeah,
that.
the person that you're taking pictures of isn't enjoying themselves, so it's not going
Yeah,
to be a natural interaction. And but yeah, I think as well, if you're willing to put yourself in like public places, like there's probably this anxiety of like, oh, someone can come up to me and I don't have a security guard and stuff. But one thing that I will say specifically about While She Sleeps, as you brought them up, which is quite strange, is it was either Matt or Sean that I think they played a festival. It might have been at the end of last year, and they invited Tom Morello to their sort of porter cabin,
cool.
because he was playing in a band of some description. And I think it was either Sean or Matt that gave him one of their signature Charvel guitars.
Okay.
And they were just like in awe of the fact that Tom Morello was like speaking to them directly. And I think there's like a real humility with While She Sleeps and Ennett Shikari. They seem to be like really genuine people that
Yeah.
just want to play music and just go wherever the wind takes them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, if they're fanboying over Tom Morello, then surely people are allowed to fanboy over them. Like it's all this weird game of like, kind of, I just want to have a chat with you. I don't necessarily need to take a picture with you,
Mm.
but I just want you to know, like you've just said, how much this has meant to me.
Yeah. It's
And I
just all
think,
about respect, isn't
yeah,
it? And how you do it.
yeah, it doesn't have to be this forced sort of, yeah, it just feels very, it's a parasocial thing, isn't it? Where
Mm.
like, you know so much about a member of the Sidemen,
Yeah.
but they don't know who you are,
Yeah, you've hit the
and they
nail on the
don't
head
know
there.
what your intentions are, you know?
That is the weird thing about it, because if you, Ricky Gervais is a good example for me. So when I was working night shifts, I used to listen to his podcast on XMM with Carl and Ricky
The original
and
podcast.
yeah, the original XFM. I mean, there's
Yep.
hours of it out there, hours and hours
Yes,
and
there
hours.
is.
And doing a 12-hour night shift, I've listened to every single episode multiple times.
Yeah.
And you've spent hundreds of hours with these people, so you do actually know them. You really
Yep.
do know them, and you get to know them quite well. But
Yeah.
if I was to approach Ricky Gervais, it's from two completely different angles. I'm a complete stranger to him, but to me, I know the guy. I really know him very, very well. And it's just it's a strange paradox, isn't it? It is odd.
Yeah, speaking of people like Ricky Gervais, I actually watched a comedian the other day. It's the first time I've ever actually seen a comedian perform live, and it was a
Really?
woman called Louise Sanders, and she absolutely smashed it.
Can't
She was
say I'm
great.
familiar with her, but
So she's been on Taskmaster and Mock the Week, and she's been on, what is it, 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown.
I probably maybe I do know her, but don't recognise the name.
I'd say she probably circles the same sort of network as Sarah Millican.
Yeah.
She
I
seems to
probably
be
do
like
know her. I'm
top.
shocked that that's your first ever stand-up
Yeah,
comedy
man.
gig.
Yeah, I had to really like check myself because I've watched thousands of bands.
Yeah.
Either I'm working the event or I'm as a spectator or a fan, you know. But yeah, it's weird because in Weymouth there's actually a pavilion where Joey Pasquale performs. Jimmy Carr occasionally rolls into town.
Yeah.
I think Lee Evans has done a show here, and Kevin Bridges.
Yeah.
And I always found out about those shows after they'd been and gone, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like, I could have actually like, because there's a chance that you're going to meet them as well in like a localized format, and it wouldn't be, oh, I'm going to take a picture. It'd just be, thank you so much for making me laugh when life's been a bit shit sometimes, you know.
Well, some of those guys you mentioned are just chronic workers, especially Jimmy Carr. He's constantly touring, isn't he? But
Yeah, I feel that.
I think stand-up comedy, you're getting a lot more now in across the country. I am kind of spoiled a little bit in Brighton because, especially in May, we have the Fringe Festival, which is basically our version of the Edinburgh Festival, where during the whole course of May, just every single pub in town has got some sort of event going on. A stand-up comedian will hire the pub for such and such nights, and any pub in town, there's live music going on or there's stand-up comedy. And there's a good sort of 4 or 5 stand-up comedy clubs in Brighton. There's a wealth of it in Brighton. I'm a little bit spoiled on that regard. So I've seen quite a lot of stand-up comedy, but I think it's growing. It's growing massively, I think, across the country now. I think we're getting smaller venues actually picking up on this is actually quite a good medium. It's great. It's so unique to any other form. It's almost like going back to those primal instincts where it's just someone is telling a story to the group. You know, insert campfire. If you want to go back to the caveman days, that's what it is. It's really going back to that primal instinct of just someone talking, nothing else, no other distractions, no music, no nothing else, just someone talking. And it's still a great format for art.
It works.
It's really great.
Yeah. Person, microphone, bottle of water, stool.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't work. I have seen quite a few where people have just bombed really badly. That happens quite a lot. I mean, we have loads of open mic nights in Brighton as well, and I've seen some absolutely terrible things. But usually the one afterwards is quite funny and sort of takes the piss out of the situation. But
I like the idea of doing stand up because I like the instant feedback, which I think if you are a YouTuber, you almost get that in a digital sense where you know if your video is going to bang or not.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider doing a 5-minute stand-up routine?
Do you know what? I've actually, there's, like I said, there's so many open mic nights in Brighton. So many times I've said to myself, do you know what? Just give it a go.
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst that'll happen? But as we know, and as an avid Joe Rogan podcast listener, it's something that you have to really work on, and you have to be shit, and you have to be shit, and you have to. But that's it. That's with everything
there's
in
no
life.
cheat code.
You have to
There's no
fail. You have
cheat
to
code.
fail and fail and fail, and that's the only reason. That's the only how you get good at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have considered it a few times, and I think it would be a fun experience, even just to try once. And you know, sometimes with open mics, it's not necessarily. This is the thing with a lot of stand-up comedy. There's so many different types. You have people that is just gag after gag and laugh after laugh after laugh, or you have people that just talk about stuff. And you know, there'll be jokes that you got to make it funny in some parts, but you just talk about the oddities of life and just the strangeness of life, and so many people do that. There's so many different forms of stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
it's great.
I quite like the interactive side of it as well, where like you could put like a PowerPoint presentation on. It's usually at your own gig rather than in an open mic format, because that's a lot of faffing around, and you might need like a clicker and a red light and laser and stuff to like really get your delivery across. But
Dave Gorman's the master of that. Do you know Dave Gorman?
I do, yeah. I think he's been quite busy recently.
He done that show on Dave that got really big, wasn't it? But he always done, before that, he done loads of stand-up comedy shows where it was all presentation on the first ever show he done was called the Dave Gorman Project, where basically he went across the world and he had a bet with his friend where this was like the original stupid YouTube video. People would do this sort of thing all the time now, but back then, about 20 years ago, it was quite revolutionary. But he basically had a bet where he had to meet like 200 people called Dave Gorman, and just went across the world just trying to find other people called Dave Gorman. And I think by the end of the show, he was like about 30 short of the deadline that he had to reach. And he managed to convince 30 people to change their name by default to Dave Gorman so he could complete this task. But he's a funny guy, but he's the master of that screen presentation stand-up style. He's really good at it.
Okay. I know Ricky Gervais does it sometimes when he reads like the sort of gay animals books, and
Noah's Ark.
I think there's a certain artistry to like, you know, having like a physical book on stage and just ripping it to shreds.
But that's what's so great about stand-up comedy. There's so many different variants, so many different styles. You've got storytellers, you've got gag artists like Jimmy Carr that just gag after gag. You know, there's so many different styles, and they're all unique in their own way. I was lucky enough when I went to New York that I went to the Comedy Cellar there, the famous Comedy Cellar with the brick back. And we got to see a really big artist, actually, Dave Attell. I don't know whether you've heard of him. He's really, really big. He's been on Joe Rogan a couple of times, but he's one of those like comedians that every sort of comedian knows and loves, but he stays to the circuit. He just goes around. He doesn't get too big and do big arenas. He was there. But the Comedy Cellar in New York, you just never know who's going to drop in. It's that place where Dave Chappelle will randomly drop in, or Chris Rock if he's working on something, or Louis C.K. You just don't know who's just going to randomly drop in and do a set.
I feel like there's a lot of that in comedy where people don't want to sort of, and I'm doing air quotes if you're listening to the audio of this, but there's this like sense of selling out if you play arenas. And with bands, it's like 100% we'll play an arena. Like, why wouldn't we play an arena? But with comedy and comedians, it seems like a lot of people find their like Goldilocks crowd, and they just circuit that over and over. And every 6 months, they go back to the same venues, and they know that they can fill the crowd out, and they know that there's a good level of like feedback and a bit of crowd work in there, rather than playing an arena. You're not going to be doing fucking crowd work at an arena. Like, nah.
Well, I think it's what comedians talk about a lot, isn't it? Is that the difference between playing to your audience and playing to strangers who don't know who you are, and you have to convince them that you're funny. Your fans are your fans, and they'll go and they'll laugh at your jokes regardless. When you're in an arena, like I've seen Ricky Gervais before in an arena, and I haven't found every single one of his jokes funny, but you find yourself
Yeah.
laughing anyway. You're in that environment and people are laughing. I kind of feel Ricky Gervais actually dropped off a little bit on the stand-up front anyway.
Yeah,
I
he
haven't
did
really
that
found his
Apocalypse one,
I
didn't
haven't
he?
really
Or
found his last
Armageddon.
couple of specials that funny. So because he always whenever he's touring, he always comes to Brighton, always, and I always used to go and see him. But the last couple of times he's been to Brighton, I've been like, nah, I'm not too keen. I think
He's kind of become the poster boy of the UK version of like the darkest comedian.
mm,
Like, what can I say that would offend the most amount of people?
yeah,
He's
yeah,
become that
yeah,
caricature of himself, sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah. He's got a bit old hat, but generally, I think most comedians kind of dry up as they go through their career. Anyway, a lot of people disagree, but I think most comedians' best stuff is in their early years. The only one that I've found who happens to be my favourite comedian, Louis C.K., has consistently been good. He's always been good. His new specials that he's bringing out now are just as good but he's changed quite a lot, and he's always consistently been good to me. But I think Dave Chappelle's earlier stuff I enjoy. I don't really enjoy Dave Chappelle that much anymore. His newer stuff.
Yeah.
He's kind of going down the same road as Ricky Gervais, where he's just trying to be controversial all the time. But the guy's got some interesting things to say, though. He does these spots, like I say, he'll just go down to the Comedy Cellar in New York and just talk for 2 hours. And he's got some interesting perspectives in life, and he's quite an interesting guy.
Yeah, I like the way he weaves things together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna like stay up all night and watch like a live release of his latest special on Netflix.
No.
Like, I'll probably just give it a couple of months and then I'll watch it after the sort of dust has settled a little bit. But yeah, cool. So download.
Yes.
Other than music, what do you enjoy about music festivals? What's like the other thing, like the byproduct of doing that?
You have a habit of coming up with some really good questions, actually, Ben, because most people would just go, okay, what bands are you looking forward to? But that's actually a really good question, because the music is only really, obviously it's a massive pull, but it's only one part of why I enjoy going to music festivals. The main reason I enjoy going to music festivals is the group of people that I go to, spending time together, camping in a field, going back to basics. Bloody hell, we're eating tinned ravioli over a stove together, having a few drinks, and just having a laugh and enjoying each other's company. And Download specifically as a festival, for me, is one of the most welcoming, accepting places. Everyone is friendly. I've been to a lot of different festivals over the years, and maybe it is just a part of getting older. I don't know, but I always used to go to Reading Festival in the early 2000s because they used to have the big pull for the bands that I liked. You know, you'd get Korn, Metallica, Slipknot, System of a Down, all these sort of bands that I liked at the time going there. But Reading Festival for me is just whatever the young people are into. Like, the young people, when I was young, were into System of a Down, Slipknot and metal music. Now they're into, you know, a lot of grime and what else. So that's what Reading Festival have got on. But Reading Festival, when I look back, was absolutely mental. It was absolutely mental. When I look back at some of the stuff that used to go on, I mean, I don't know whether it's the same, but that campsite on the Sunday was just absolute chaos. Like, the toilets would be set on fire. Like, people would just be going round stealing people's gazebos to burn. People were throwing gas canisters onto fires. People putting people on shopping trolleys and pushing them down the hill. It was just mental. Just
all bets are off.
Chaos. I don't know whether it's still like that. I don't know whether it's still like that. Is. But thing is, though, I think you need that, especially as a young 20-year-old. You've got so much pent-up energy. You need a bit of release. And even though that was chaos, it was controlled chaos in a weird way. I think people knew when they were crossing the line. Like, no one, you know, no one was getting murdered or raped or any mental stuff like that. That didn't happen. It was just chaos. But as I've got older, I don't really want that for a festival experience, which is why I like Download. Because of the bands that you have, it attracts people more my age. But there's a lot of youngsters now as well, of course. which is what I love about Download. They've kind of got a good mix. They're still putting on bands that people my age in their early 40s enjoy, but they're putting on all new young bands. Sleep Token is the perfect example.
Yep.
And they're attracting the youngsters as well. And it's just always through life, the metal community has always been the most friendly environment. But one thing that I always say, like if you go abroad or something, the LGBT community have the rainbow flag and they see it up in a pub and they know that they'll go there and be accepted. I kind of feel like it's the same thing in the metal community. Wherever you go in the world, if there's like a Motorhead flag or something up in a pub, okay, these are my sort of people. They're going to be good people. We're going to get on. And that's what I love about Download. Just everyone you meet, the community is just so friendly, just so nice. You can just chat to anyone. And it's always nice when you're in a place with 90,000 people or however many people go to Download, you've all got that one common interest. Whatever person you bump into, you just talk about what band you're going to see, what you do. You've always got that common interest that you can talk about, which is why I love going to festivals. But I am scared that I'm getting a bit old now because it is tiring. It is really, really, really tiring going to a festival, but I still absolutely love it. It does zap a lot of energy from you. But I've just learned to slow down a little bit. I'm not 20 years old anymore. I don't have to have a beer at 11 o'clock in the morning when I wake up. I can just take it easy. I can have a little rest during the day. If there's not many bands that I want to see, I can come back, chill for a bit. But I love it. I absolutely love it. And you need to go, man. You need to go, mate.
I do. It's been 2009 was my last download.
Wow,
that was unbelievable though. It was ridiculous.
Who was playing in 2009?
I'm genuinely not looking at this. Faith No More, Korn, Sugar. Sugar are playing this year as well.
Yeah.
Billy Talent, Blackstone Cherry.
Okay.
Prodigy, Trivium. It was incredible. The whole thing was and it felt like there wasn't a lot of clashes, which was quite nice.
Yeah, I've
that can really make or break a festival because
I've only got one this year, which is Crossfaith and Opeth, so I've been quite lucky on that front. But yeah, clashes are very frustrating.
Are you seeing Miles Kennedy?
No, I don't.
He's ridiculously good live. His voice is beyond it kind of transcends dimensions. He's fantastic.
My best Miles Kennedy band is the one that no one listens to. Which is Slash's Snake Pit. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah. They
So Slash after Guns N' Roses done 2 albums. I can't remember if it's one of the albums is pretty pants. I don't like it, but one album with Miles Kennedy singing is an absolutely killer album, and I absolutely love that album. That's my favorite Miles Kennedy band.
One of their songs is Good Bone or Bad Bone.
Yes, yeah.
I got one good bone in my body.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's got a cool intro as well.
If you have ever got the time and you remember, I know you always give a list, but if you chuck that whole album on, it's one of those ones. There's no skips for me on that album. I absolutely love every track.
Yeah, I thought you were going to mention the first band that Miles was in. I can't remember what it's called now. It's the Mayfield 4.
Okay.
And that was his. So I don't know if you know about this. We'll go into Alter Bridge. But Miles closet. He was in the closet about playing guitar. Apparently, he used to only play guitar sat on the toilet, and he was really shy about. He's a good singer, so why would he also want to put guitar out there? And I think Mark Tremonti heard him play guitar once, and he was like, "Fucking hell, man, you're incredible! You need to do both." And I like Alter Bridge because there's this back and forth with Miles and Mark where they're not kind of interrupting each other and constantly feeling the need to harmonize their parts. Miles is quite light with his strumming and his ability. He's a bit less than Mark's because he's quite a shredder. Tremonti, he's a bit of a fretboard dancer. But I like the fact that they seem to complement each other. I think that's usually a sign of a good band when you can kind of communicate without talking.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them when I saw them live. Saw them at Download. It was a great setting, nice summer's day. The sun was coming down. They were on the main stage. Really good vibes from there. I really enjoyed, but I've never got crazy into them listening at home. But sometimes that happens. Do you get that where you just really enjoy a band live? You're not necessarily a
Yeah.
huge fan. You might not go crazy for them and put them on when you get home, but you just
Yeah.
really, really enjoy them live.
Yeah, in that moment. Yeah. I feel a bit like that with CKY, who are actually playing Download as well, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
And I just find that they're just better live. I've seen them a couple of times live, and then I've gone to listen to the songs whilst driving, and it just doesn't seem to hit.
Mm.
And I think there's probably a lot of reasons behind that, but maybe it's just they're a live band, and you have to see them with a crowd of
Yeah,
people
I
around
could
you.
see that with that sort of band that
Yeah.
they probably put on a good live show.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a band called Battlesnake, which is a ridiculous Australian band. For some
I'm
reason,
interested straight away.
there's a great thing going on in Australia. Did you ever get into 12 Foot Ninja?
A little bit.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
this
a
thing in
little bit.
Australia at the moment, and what's that band with the really stupid name? King Lizard and the Wizard Lizard.
Yeah.
They're bringing out all this ridiculously over the top funny rock music, and they just completely take the piss out of themselves, and it's great fun, and I'm enjoying it. And Battlesnake is one of these bands. They're actually playing twice, so they're playing in District X. They're playing on the Thursday in the village in the campsite, and they're playing on the Friday, one of the first bands on of the day, and they just wear these ridiculous cloaks and just over the top rubbish. Their music is it's all right, it's okay, but I know they're going to be great fun live. I know I'm really going to enjoy them live.
Yeah, no, I like it when bands really make an effort in the wardrobe department to give you a good show. And I think there's probably like a secret formula for live bands making like the perfect set list,
Mm,
because you don't want this sort of, like you've just mentioned, like has been sort of moment where they're just playing the hits.
mm,
But you also don't want them to just blurt out the new album to you, because that's not why you initially got into them. So there's
yeah.
this like weird sort of Krabby Patty formula where there must be this perfect like set of 7 songs. And I
Do you know
think
what I really love?
yeah,
If you can catch a band early and you see them on their tour when they've got one
yeah,
album out, and they pretty much just play the whole album, and it's great.
yeah,
And
back to
you
front.
never
Yeah,
leave with, oh, I wish they played that. It's hard to do that when you catch a band early like that.
yeah,
But it's interesting what you say about the performance though, because I think we went through a period where bands were like, well, no, you need to appreciate the music. It doesn't matter what I wear and what we do on stage. The music speaks for itself. And you know, if you're listening to it at home, that's a thing. But I think we went for a period where we lost that art of actually just putting on a really good show and just doing
yeah,
something a little bit different. Sometimes you just want to see something a little bit different than just 4 dudes on stage
yeah,
playing music. You want to see something that's a little bit interesting, which is exactly what your Sleep Tokens and stuff are doing at the moment.
yeah, yeah, completely. And there's a sense of like mood and atmosphere. And if you know, I assume you're going to watch Sleep Token at Download, but
Yes.
like the whole place will go quite quiet, I think. And then there'll be, because they put on a ridiculously good light show as well, amongst
Mm,
everything else.
mm.
And I don't think there'll be a lot of people like shouting out in between songs, because Sleep Token don't really settle. They just all of their songs like flow into each other.
Well, I imagine they don't talk between songs,
No,
right?
they don't talk. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
even at the end, or nothing at
No,
all. Yeah.
they just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Um.
what I'd imagine. It would be weird if they did because they're
Yeah.
an anonymous band. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's their thing.
Occasionally they do that, and
Yeah.
they say worship, and it comes up on the screen in the back. But
Yeah.
yeah, every time I've seen them, I've like left feeling like fuck me. That was really something. That
Mm,
was like a, because they describe their shows as rituals, and they say worship and our next gathering and our
yeah.
next summoning and
I'm
offering and
looking forward to it. I don't know.
yeah,
I still don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. I think I'm going to enjoy it. I'm definitely going to enjoy the songs I like.
yeah. I'll
But
need to know
I think they'll
ASAP
be
if you enjoyed
respected. I think,
it. Yeah.
I mean, the other option is Cradle of Filth that are playing at the same time as them.
Really?
So, well, I think that's a good thing to do because it will draw the elitist metalheads out of that arena and they can go and watch Cradle of Filth, and then it should just leave the Sleep Token fans to enjoy.
Didn't even see that they were playing. Is it the Dogtooth stage?
Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed
Okay.
actually because I'm not another classic example. I'd never listen to Cradle of Filth at home, but I'd go and see them if they weren't clashing with Sleep Token. I'd definitely go experience that, just see what that's about.
It's interesting because when Sleep Token was starting out, they actually did a song with Loathe. So I'd
Oh,
be
okay.
interested to see if they do a song on stage together because they're playing on Saturday. Both of them are playing the main stage.
Mm,
Loathe are potentially second on. So that might be quite interesting to
potential then.
watch.
There's still some surprise sets which they tend to do every year now, don't they? There's some
Yeah,
gaps. Rumor is Electric Callboy because they pulled out last year.
they are very good live.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
phenomenal.
they have a real like
They're amazing.
yeah, a very energy drink driven band, I think.
Yeah, I've seen them a couple of times now. I've seen them in
Yeah,
small venues as well. They played Chalk here. I know I've seen them 3 times actually. I saw them near your end reasonably near your end in Portsmouth. Um,
did
uh,
Seething Akira play that?
um, I don't know actually.
They would be perfect to play that
Yeah,
because they
yeah,
put a lot of energy into
yeah.
their
They
shows.
would. It would be a good match. But Electric Callboy is just fantastic. Just you know that there's going to be a party atmosphere when they're playing. It's not going to be a dead crowd. It's going to
Yeah,
be intense, and everyone's going to be having fun.
yeah,
And yeah, they were at Download last time I was at Download, but the tent was absolutely heaving. You could not get in. I wanted to go and see Hatebreed anyway that were playing at the same time because I'd seen Electric
yeah,
Callboy 3 times at that point. So, but
yeah.
yeah, you could not get in that tent.
I think I
So
saw Hatebreed at Download in 2009. Oh man, I need to go, but I just can't justify the tickets because it's like, do I go to Download or do I go on holiday?
yeah, it is expensive,
Oh, yeah.
and this is another
Have to
reason
think about
why
it.
I don't know. I might be going to smaller festivals after this. I see
Yeah.
what it all comes down to what my group of friends that I go with want to do. Because the other interesting thing about the friends that I go with to Download, they live in Ipswich. I think I might have told you this before, but we met at Reading Festival in like 2003. They were just camped next to us randomly, and this was
Yeah.
before following me on Facebook and all this stuff. We just basically said to
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
you coming next
Yeah.
year? Yeah, we're coming next year. Okay, should we camp at this exact
Wow.
spot? I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. And then a year later, they were there. And we've just been friends ever since. And we kind of
Yeah.
only
You've got this
really
like,
see each other when we go to festivals. They've come down to Brighton and stuff, and we've gone down up to Ipswich now and again.
yeah,
But that's where we're most at home when we're at a festival. So we'll see what
got
they
this
want to
kind
do.
of like verbal agreement. I always like hearken that back to like being a child
Mm.
where you like go to like a soft play area and you have no idea what this person's name is. You know, you don't have a phone because you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And you develop this like friendship with someone through play, and then they just don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, what? Like,
Well, that's what
so
happens the
unless,
majority of the time when
yeah,
you camp next to whoever you're camping with at a festival. Usually, you never
yeah,
see them again.
yeah. But yeah, Facebook and all that's definitely changed that sort of narrative where people like to stay in touch with people now. But yeah, awesome. Yeah. So just to sort of wrap this up because we've been going quite a while now.
Well,
Just
if
wanted to,
you start me talking about music, I could talk all
yeah,
night.
time doesn't exist. Um, I just wanted to say thank you on the record for helping me learn how to edit video lately because it's been a lot for me to get my head around even downloading some software because I've just felt this like real level of like overwhelm. Like, how am I going to be able to learn a new skill at 35 years old? And it's actually been quite fun
Mm,
learning.
mm,
And I've never really done well with learning things like on YouTube and then trying to add them into the real world. I've always done better with someone to sort of lean over my shoulder a little bit.
yeah.
And you and a couple of other people have really helped with that. And you've been very patient and you've been quite available,
Oh, you're welcome,
So
mate.
thank you for that.
Going back to the Buddhist thing, I believe in karma. I do. You do good
Yeah.
things for people, they will have no problem doing good things in return. That's what life is about, mate. So
Yeah, completely.
you're more than welcome. If I can help you out
And
with something, I'm sure there's something you can help me out with.
and the second from last question I've got is there any chance of you coming to Teddy Rocks next year? This
Okay.
doesn't have to be a contractually legally binding thing.
If there's one band that I want to see, then I consider it. But it is quite a long way away for me, isn't it? It is quite a journey. But I am totally looking at going to smaller festivals. So if there's just one band that I'd be like, yeah, I'd really like to see them, then I'd make the journey. But as I said to you earlier as well, I am kind of spoiled living in Brighton with the access that I have to live music. I mean, any night of the week in Brighton, there's 6-7 venues having bands on, and the smaller festivals like Teddy Rocks are showcasing those smaller bands that I've got access to quite a lot. So, but yeah, if there's one big pool, if they've got one band that I'd really be interested in, then I'd consider it. But yeah, it is quite a long. It's quite a long way to drive for me.
I think that's where like camping really comes into its own, because I'm quite happy to just drive there and then drive home, because I'm
is it
25
not?
minutes away.
I didn't realise it was a camping event. Is it?
Yeah, it is camping.
Is it not a one dayer then?
It's a 3-dayer. It's
a
Friday to Sunday.
Oh, that changes it slightly then. I mean, if you and me just want to hang out and camp, I'll be at. I love camping. Great fun.
Yeah.
That changes it. So yeah,
it is stupidly cheap as well, like in the grand scheme of things. And obviously you see the money go towards a good cause as well. So there is that sense of like residual, like, oh, I've done a good deed by supporting live music.
Yeah.
So it's just all beneficial on all levels. So but yeah, it'll be cool to see you in the real world, because I feel like we spend quite a lot of time on Zoom together at this point. And the last question I've got for you, it's a bit of a sort of new question at the end of the episodes that we do at Absolute Bedlam, but what's the current favourite thing about yourself? A bit of self-love.
Oh, Ben, you boss. I hate these type of questions. I don't even
Soppy
know what I
twat.
like about myself. So what's my best quality? Is that what you're asking?
Like, is there something that you sort of hold to, like you're reliable or you're all in, or you just give a lot of yourself to someone? Or
my best quality? I guess just that sense of what I was just talking about, of just, if people need help, I'm happy to give them help. I truly, I know it's such a cliche thing to say, but I truly do believe in karma. I really do. If you treat people well, if you're there for people and you do nice things for people, you will get that in return. So I guess that would be my best quality. If you're in my life and you're a positive influence in my life, then I will be there for you and I will do things for you and I will help you out. So yeah, that would be my answer, you bastard.
Put you on the spot with that one.
Oh, it's like a job interview where you have to say, what's your best skills, or what can you bring to the company?
Tell me about a time where you've had a difficult customer. How long have you fucking got? Because I'm gonna lock the doors.
I hate that question. They say, oh, what's your worst quality? And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
What's your biggest weakness?
Okay,
none.
I've got to say, my biggest weakness is I work too hard.
I'm a serial killer.
Oh,
fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, mate.
And this has been really fun. It's nice to just sit down with someone and chat, rather than just feel this need to like constantly promote the machine and when's your tour, and it's nice to just sit down sometimes and just do this a little bit more locally.
Completely agree.
So, yeah, all good. Thanks for watching, and if you fancy it, drop a subscribe. If you don't fancy it, I'm surprised that you're still listening to me talk. So cheers for coming, and keep it bedlam.